Yeah, Mike, thank you. Sorry for we're going to go to the hearing because we're starting to hear some response.
Thank you to the honorable members of this committee. My name is Kevin Kookogey, and I am president and founder of Linchpins of Liberty, which is an American leadership development enterprise. Our motto is to challenge the imagination of the rising generation. And we do this by mentoring high school and college students in conservative political philosophy. We aim to mentor high school and college students by teaching them about the great books and about the foundations of America's moral and constitutional order. Linchpins of Liberty is one of those little platoons described by Alex Tocqueville, a local institution intended to act as a check on the power of the state to moderate the despotism of the majority and to give people a taste for freedom and the skills to be free. We are committed to a literary education and moral convictions that will allow citizens to maintain civil order. We aim to develop the moral imagination through the teaching of history, and we believe that God is the measure of all things, and that the soul is the essence of humanity. Linchpin students learn how the Greeks were unable to maintain freedom because of their pursuit of private gain at public expense, and their squandering of resources on extravagance. From Cicero, we learn the necessity of the rule of law, and we discover that true law is right reason in agreement with nature, that virtue must not yield to power. Linchpins of Liberty is also inspired by Augustine, that great 4th century philosopher of freedom, who wrote that only in obedience to God do we find perfect liberty. We teach our students from George Washington's farewell address, where we discover that religion and morality are indispensable supports for political prosperity. From Montesquieu, we learn that positive law must conform to natural law, and that a republic can only be sustained by the virtue of its citizens. Linchpins of Liberty recognizes that the state is God-ordained, necessary to protect against foreign enemies, and that there can be no freedom without the law. But there are limits to the authority of the state. The government cannot be a law unto itself, and when the state usurps its legitimate authority by interfering in the realms of speech, religion, conscience, family, association, and ideas, we have a duty as human beings to ourselves and our posterity to oppose and to protest the state's trespassing its limits. In order to raise money, I filed an application with the IRS in January of 2011, seeking to obtain 501c3 status as an educational organization. As of today, I've been waiting for 29 months without status. In the interim, I lost a $30,000 launch grant from a reputable nonprofit whose executive director advised me that he had never seen such treatment of a 501c3 applicant in his 25 years of making grants. I also lost and continue to lose multiple thousands of my own money, and I had to cease any further official activity for fear the IRS would target me for further harassment. For 2.5 years, the IRS has unlawfully delayed and obstructed my application for determination of tax-exempt status by using unconstitutional criteria. The types of questions asked by the IRS included asking me to identify the political affiliation of my mentors, and that I advise the IRS of my political position on virtually every issue of importance to me. For good measure, I was asked to identify those whom I train, and that I inform the federal government in detail what I am teaching my students. Considering that the mission of my organization is devoted to mentoring young people, some of whom are minors, can you imagine the reaction of the students' parents were I to turn over the names of their children to the IRS? And to what end? Is it not conceivable that I would be sued? Would the IRS threaten to audit the parents of those students? Yet my failure to comply with this stunning inquiry would result in the denial of my application or subject me to perjury. Moreover, contrary to the statements of Lois Lerner, the targeting of linchpins was not merely the act of a few agents in Cincinnati. On December 31, 2011, after numerous and repeated calls to the IRS which went unreturned, I finally reached Agent Ron Bell in Cincinnati. When I inquired of him as to why my application was taking so long, he said, "We have been waiting on guidance from our superiors as to your organization and similar organizations. We have now received that guidance, and you will receive your answer on a first-in, first-out basis." Although Linchpins of Liberty is a 501c3 and not a C4 like many of the organizations here today, we do share one common trait with them, and that is our ideas. Linchpins of Liberty exist to defend the cause of ordered liberty. We reject the expansion of the state beyond its legitimate authority, and we jealously guard human liberty. I respectfully urge and appeal to this committee today, which is a co-equal branch of the federal government vested with authority and responsibility to check the power of the executive branch. I would ask that you act with courage and moral resolve, for in so doing, the intent is that you will, sorry, my time was running there.
You may conclude.
Thank you. I would just ask that you would act with the moral resolve to check the power of the executive branch, because in so doing, you will protect, defend, and preserve human liberty for ourselves and our posterity. Thank you.